Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be reviewing Ghostbusters Afterlife from 2021, and this is directed by Jason Reitman and stars Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace and Paul Rudd. A new age of Ghostbusters is upon us when a family of three move to a small town and uncover a secret that their relative who left them the house was actually a Ghostbuster himself. I'm going to be honest guys, this is only the second time I've watched Ghostbusters Afterlife, but I really enjoyed it on the cinema back in 2001, so I was really looking forward to checking out this 4K. I gotta respect Jason Reitman for taking on this mantle of his father and following in his footsteps, because a lot of people were so pissed off with the Ghostbusters 2016 film, and he really had to pull that fan base, which is huge by the way, even with two movies in the 80s, still to this day, and get them all back on track there, and it seemed like a real tough task for them. I gotta say, the location change for this small town slash countryside was welcome for this movie. We've had three movies now in the franchise in New York, so I think a little bit of a shake-up definitely benefited Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, I don't think you can obviously make all the movies take place in here from now on after this, and of course with that is not happening because Frozen Empire is going to take place in New York again. But for one movie, I think that was okay to do. Especially when Jason Reitman is actually directing and behind the camera here. I love the scenes where he is just following Ecto-1 with these real wide shots, and you can just see all of the background, all of this location in view with this car just going like 100 miles an hour through the cornfields. And I think he used that location to his full advantage and definitely made it work for the film. Now, I think the main goal of Ghostbusters Afterlife should be to get you on board with the new Ghostbusters that are going to come to the forefront in the modern day, because obviously the older Ghostbusters have aged a hell of a lot now, and they need to get new viewers and older viewers to come to an agreement about the new characters we have on board here. And I think the movie really did accomplish that. They're not in the realm of Egon, Ray, Winston and Peter Venkman, but I think these are a great bunch of characters to follow here. Now, I think Finn Wolfhard does a job here. A lot of people are probably going to be happy with him here anyway, because Stranger Things is such a big thing now and he's the main character in that show. So that was an obvious pick, really. Now, the movie doesn't explore his character all that much here, but I do think there's room for him to grow, especially in Frozen Empire that we're going to get coming soon. I'm sure we'll get another sequel after that if that is successful, but you do feel like he's going to be the leader of these Ghostbusters, especially being the oldest. But McKenna Grace as Phoebe Spengler, man, she absolutely stole the show. She's definitely the movie's Egon. She just inherits a lot of what made that character great, and it just shows that it goes down the bloodline because she is in fact his granddaughter. But I really liked how smart she was. She was discovering what was going on around this location. She just knows a lot more than a lot of the other people at school. She's working with the teacher, Paul Rudd, because he is interested in all the same things she is. She's the standout character at school, but she was definitely the standout character in this movie. I thought it was such a confident performance from such a young actress, and she was my favourite character in the movie by a mile. Now, this movie has a really ballsy move by calling a character Podcast. Yes, Podcast, because he runs a podcast and wants people on his podcast, and he's constantly recording his podcast, hence the name Podcast. Now, for a lot of Ghostbusters fanatics, that just could have went south. But I think he is definitely another one of the best characters in this movie. I think he's got some real comedic value to him. Logan Kim played him brilliantly in this film, and I think the chemistry between him and McKenna Grace's character here just works well so much when they are on screen together. They're like two peas in a pod. They are both the standouts at school. They're the two geeky kids, really. They both share the same interests. And as much as I like Finn Wolfhard's story and him chasing the romance, this was definitely the strongest story of the film when it was focusing on these two characters. And this film has so many fun moments. That's what Ghostbusters is all about, isn't it? The entertainment value. But I really love the little Marshmallow Man scene in the supermarket where they're just going crazy and just beating each other up and throwing each other in blenders and stuff. I thought that was a nice little throwback to the original Marshmallow Man, of course. We also have another great scene, and a creative ghost called Muncher, who's kind of like the Slimer character, but this time he just chews through metal and he can spit this metal out as bullets. So I thought that was a really cool creative decision. But there's a moment where the Ghostbusters take down the first ghost, and that is actually Muncher, and they're flying through this quiet town. And it's just so well filmed once again by Jason Reitman. He ramps up the action so well. It's like a massive piece of action in a small location. And, it just really visually is a treat for the eyes. And it was my favourite part of the film, put it that way. I gotta say, guys, when I went to cinema to watch this, I remember thinking, wow, is this movie over? Because it absolutely flew by. And that was the case again here. I kind of forgot going into this how quick it was, and I remembered afterwards I went, oh my god, that movie flew by like it did at the cinema. It's never boring, there's no dull moments, it just constantly gives. I think this has a cool ending as well. Spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, but obviously the Ghostbusters all come back towards the end, and Egon is a ghost and he starts taking down a ghost with his fellow pals there. And that was a nice little touch, I feel. I think that's the best they could have done to pay homage to that character. And on second viewing, I did think it was a little bit more weird there because Egon doesn't really talk. He just puts his hand on people and gives people hugs. So that stood out like a sore thumb a little bit. And the Ghostbusters look way older, But I think this movie ends on a nice emotional level still, put it that way. Not as hard hitting the second time around or as sad, but it still works. And just on a final positive, guys, I've got to mention this, but there's a moment where these Ghostbusters get arrested and they get a phone call, and Bokeem Woodbine is the sheriff of this town. And she goes, look, we get our phone call. And he goes, okay, you can have your phone call. And the line of dialogue he delivers is perfect. Man, I laughed my ass off at the cinema, and I just laughed my ass off here. He just says, who are you gonna call? But he just delivers it so damn perfect. Man, I love that moment.
Hey, don't we get a phone call?
Sure you do. Who you gonna call?
However, guys, I gotta be honest, I think the story is slightly lazy here. Now, I get that they had to play it a little bit safe because they were going in bold new directions with the characters and stuff. But I just feel like the whole villain side of things is the same as the first story. It's just not in New York. It's in this quiet countryside town because Gozer comes back from the first movie. There's a moment with all these dates on the wall, and it just feels really cheesy. It's like they just threw them random dates on the wall to have an excuse to bring this character back, and it's time for her to come and take over the world again. It just felt very lazy. I know they're playing it safe, but could we have not tried something a little bit different? Ghostbusters 2 sort of retreads the first film with the character arcs. This film retreads the first film with the villain ghost story side of things. And Gozer, when she comes back, just doesn't feel like as good as a character, or visually even looks as good. I mean, it's kind of a half-assed version of it, especially when the voice comes out, man. It's like glass in the ears. I was just like, what the hell is that voice? And then we have the gatekeeper and the keymaster in Carrie Coon's character and Paul Rudd's character. And I'm just like, really? It really is the same sort of climax, but not as good, put it that way. Also, Paul Rudd's character in this film is okay. I like the guy. I really think he brings an entertainment factor to films, and this is kind of no exception. However, he does something in this film that really annoys me. He is this scientist. I think he's like a sub-teacher, but he's really, really clever, basically, put it that way. And he's investigating all these tremors that are happening around the town, obviously for Gozer's return. But he is a fan of the Ghostbusters, and he explains to McGregor Grace's character, Phoebe Spengler, that they were big in the 80s. Like, New York was like a ghost town. He's showing the clips on YouTube and stuff, and he knows everything about the Ghostbusters. And McKenna Grace shows him the trap that Egon left them, or that she found in the house, and he goes, wow, is this a real trap? And then proceeds to open it. Now, if he knew what happened in 1984, did he not think for a moment there, especially with how clever he is? I mean, that part of the film just really annoys me. And I gotta say, the Carrie Coon, Paul Rudd romance side of things, that doesn't work for me at all. Now, I don't know if this was intentional because Carrie Coon's character, Callie, even says in the movie that, yeah, I don't know if you should date me because my life's a disaster. And she kind of counters stuff he says in the date, but I just feel like this is filler. Nothing really comes of it, and it's probably my least interesting part of Ghostbusters Afterlife. It just does nothing for me, and I don't really care what the outcome is. And as much as I love McKenna Grace's character in this movie, and with her line delivery and her comedic genius at times, she tells a couple of jokes in this movie. Well, I say a couple, it's more like 4 or 5 jokes. And I laughed at a couple of them, but some of them just do not land at all. And I thought that was a really weird choice to make her character just tell these jokes now and again. It just felt a little bit out of place. Apart from that, I have no qualms with her character at all, but that is the dialogue that was written for her. And I don't know, I just kind of wish she didn't say them jokes, put it that way. I gotta say, guys, I still really enjoyed this movie on rewatch. I just don't love it as much as I did the first time. There was a few problems with the story that bogged it down for me a little bit, but this is still a really fun time, a really entertaining sequel, if you like, or legacy sequel, whatever you want to call it. And I think it sets the ground for future sequels going forward, because Ghostbusters is a great franchise. I don't think there's a bad movie in it, even the 2016 film. And I think going forward that we have some good characters here, and a foundation to be built on. So it's a pretty solid effort. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give Ghostbusters Afterlife a 7.5 out of 10. I can't wait for Frozen Empire now after revisiting this, so bring it on. Hey guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for Ghostbusters Afterlife is that Paul Rudd actually turned down a role in Halloween Kills to return as Tommy Doyle in that movie. And of course, Anthony Michael Hall took that. And he wanted to be in this movie instead. Man, would it have been so annoying if Paul Rudd was saying "Evil Dies Tonight" compared to Anthony Michael Hall? I don't know, maybe he could have made that line work. Hey guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. Please don't forget to check out my other Ghostbusters reviews and let me know what you think of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Thanks so much, guys. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video.